Hey everyone, today we're going to model Pyra, the demo character for human modeling. And here, I'm going to do this in the traditional box modeling sense. So if you've never done this before, this will be a lot of fun. Here we are. So I'm going to start off with a box model. I always start off with two subdivisions. That's because it's easy to sort of disperse and break up your character into front and back and left and right. So I kind of find that a simpler way to go. And then I'm going to set this up here, which is approximately the waistline, as you can see. I'm going to scale it up. Move directly into this. Pop this up to the shoulders. Maybe even broaden them a little bit. They'll probably narrow back down, but it's okay. We could also do this. That seems fine. Let's pop in over here and just quickly take a look at the placement of this and see what we have to change. I'm going to just turn on Karnak really quickly so that you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to just set up basically the rough locations of where these things should go. I'm trying to track the center line on the character's body and just roughly kind of creating the arc of the back and getting, yeah, this stuff kind of going. So something to note and remember is that the shoulder itself from the front view is actually the right height because the side view was built for the lowered arm. So we're going to just take these, pop this up over here so that we can work a little bit more carefully. And while we're at it, I'm going to grab these guys. Oh, sorry, vertices. I'm going to narrow it down a little bit. Same thing here. Not as much, but just rounding it out a little. Then let's grab our multi-cut tool. I'm moving pretty fast, but we've also kind of done this a few times, so I'm going to just come here. Hold down Shift when you do this, otherwise the line won't be perfectly straight. Yeah, as you can tell, there. So what I've basically done right now is I'm setting up to take out the arm. And the important thing over here is whenever you're trying to extrude any kind of limb, it's kind of helpful to have four faces. So in the spirit of keeping that going, I'm just going to cut across this pretty quickly to start getting some basic results. And as we go, I can now shape things a little bit better as well. So pull that back a little. You can see this line indicates the lowered part of the arm. I'll let it come a little bit lower for now and move it back up as we go. But I do want to make sure that the shoulder and all of this kind of sits where I expect it to. And while we're at it, because we're in the mood to cut things, I'll cut across here, which will then make it easier for me as I bring in a little bit more shape. Broaden that out, narrow that down. You can see there's almost immediately shape just being created with the bare minimum of lines. Now let's go into face mode, grab these four faces, and unselect that side. Let's come over here really quickly. So you can see right now we've got like a really rudimentary body shape, and what we want is to be able to extrude out an arm. So I'm never going to straight up take up an extrusion like this. What I want to do is create a cradle for myself. And that, of course, is done just by a simple extrusion. scaling it inward, straightening it out. Why? Because this actually gives us freedom to shape and place the shoulder and I mean the arm in any which way, and then to create a socket for it, because the shoulder it exists in a socket by itself. So now I've done this, I'm going to just hit E to get this sorted out, and I can then reflatten it if I want, or just take the scale tool, flatten it out, scale it down. And let's set the shoulder to be in a place where it feels more natural. So if you remember, when I first started out, the shoulder was like really far out, but now it's kind of sinking into the body a little bit. And that's kind of important, because when you lift your arms, if you study human anatomy on any level, which we should, this is a really important thing to know. Anyways, moving on, we'll do another extrusion. Bring this out here. I'm going to grab this, scale this down, hit G to repeat the last move you made. Scale this up, G again, bring it right to that wrist. Also, keep note, I'm keeping the arm dead straight for the moment. Not because the arm is straight in real life, just it's really, really important to not complicate your modeling process until it's time to complicate it. So it's okay if you stay like kind of rudimentary to begin with, as long as you're bringing in and like sorting out the things that need to be sorted out. So now what I'm going to do, and I can do this with like faces as well, if that works better for us. Just narrow these out so that we get sort of more roundness happening. And because I know how the human body works, I can kind of assume that the width of the shoulder is not as big as all of that. Let's check this out from the side view. Say this will do better a little bit like this. And there. Okay, so we've pulled out an arm. Let's check this out in smooth preview. You can see we're getting a little bit of roundness. If you look at it without selecting, you're going to kind of see like a little sharper squariness compared to this, which is good. Very, very important. Definitely something you want to keep checking. So let's come here. Let's start getting the legs. So the easiest thing that I do in this situation is I will just bring this down, flatten this, and kind of set it up where the crotch is, essentially. And then like reach this across. Nope, not going to do that. We can manually adjust to kind of make it feel like it's a flat, plain surface. Then we're going to make two cuts. One cut will be across the body. So let's do this. Oh, no. Definitely want to zoom out for that. Here, hold down Shift to get this, hit Enter, and then let's cut to make 4 faces. But before I do, I'm going to kind of designate locations, right? So these are sort of really important things that you want to do, is start to like figure out what each loop is doing. Now let's just go ahead. I'm going to cut that. I need those 4 faces. I'm going to carry this up. I'm going to take some of that pressure off the shoulder again. So you notice every time you do this, you're going to find like sort of reason to shift your geo. And I know there are going to be a lot of people who are tempted not to shift the geo or the vertices themselves, thinking, oh, It's fine, I'll get to it, it's cool. Um, but it doesn't really work that way. In fact, the more you put it off, the worse it's gonna be, you know? So just make your life a little bit easier. Grab these things, pull them out into shape, or in this case, push these things further in. And let's check this out in the side view. So these things, sort of the straight, this set, the first supporting loop, that is something that needs to sit on a flat plane. Why? Because that's the only way to make sure that we don't get like a weird seam down the center. So you can see all of a sudden, because we have more loops, we have sort of room. And that's super, super important. Remember, armpits kind of go in. And then this comes here. Let's go back to the back, to the side view. Because you can see this part is getting a little bit strange. So I'm going to flatten these guys. Same with these two. And these two. Why? Because now we can start tracing the placement of the spine. And again, we don't want a seam, so what is helpful though is we can actually also just bring this down and start just making sort of like where the body bends forward and backwards. And yes, it is currently very low poly, but that shouldn't stop us. Oh, wait. I do maybe not want to do that because I want to extrude this on a straight plane first. So let's go ahead, take this, check it out in the front view. I'm going to extrude, scale it in. Let's just go ahead, circularize. So you're going to see every time you circularize, these things sort of like rotate a little bit. That's fine. I'm going to aim my camera at this, and I'm going to use the outer circle to kind of start to sort this out a little bit. And then I'm going to scale this up evenly for the moment and bring this down a little bit. So immediately you can see that this sort of makes it a little bit easier to work with. Plus now I can rotate it to start getting that turn and start creating sort of this crease, which, as you know, this is a semi-crowded area, so it's fine. Either way, we've got our first extrusion. Here's our second. I'm going to bring it down here, maybe rotate it again, or just flatten it. I think that works better. I'm going to move it a little bit to the side, not too much, because thighs are actually very fleshy, even the skinny ones. And this way I can just sort of make room for that. We're also going to come in and sit into, oh, I want this here. And I want this here. So this is just a comfort zone thing because I'm already like set to work on this. You don't have to if you don't want to. We'll bring that down. This time set it back a little bit. Hit G. Bring it down. Flare it out. Don't make it a creepy flare. All the way down to the ankle. Because we can always bring in and will always bring in more information, but you just want to hit whenever you're doing like the first base model. That is something where you want to hit all of the key points so that then if you ever need to like edit it, you're not completely, rechanging or like altering something huge. And grab that, yank it back a little bit, maybe rotate it a bit more. I'll bring this down a little bit as I do this, because I'm gonna yank the heel down into place. Here's this, flatten, scale, move. One more for the toes. We will add another one, but realistically, this is a really good early start. Now let's come here, go into vertex mode, grab these, pull them down. And while we're at it, let's grab all of these, which as you can see, form the two sets of faces. I'm going to do that, widen it out. And as you can see, this is a little bit like offset, as in, ankle comes down here, this is like this. There's more foot on this side of the center rather than on this side. So we kind of want all of this, and we want to move it a little bit like that. I mean, prettier, but you get what I'm doing. And if you're wondering, this is a good time for us to see what it looks like. Oops. Definitely not G. F. F is what I want. Hit 5. Now you can see this over here will do better to be a little bit narrower. And let's possibly narrow down these guys. We want it to feel like a foot. And because that's the outer limit for where the foot is going to be, I'm not going to yank those things forward, or I could actually and just rotate this like so, and then grab it all and push it back. And while we're at it, round some shape out. And let's put a little bit more energy here. Lower this, push it back. So now you can see we're almost setting up like an instep very, very early on in the game, but we've got essentially a very large amount of the body kind of blocked in. That's pretty cool, isn't it? So I'm going to make save a copy of this. Always remember to keep hitting save, so I'm going to hit save. And before I mirror, I'm going to do one more cut, which is the base for the neck. So here's that. And now, save a copy. Like I said, version up. This is my demo model. I'm going to save version 2 now. And let's go into our front view. And just select these faces. So you notice it's easy to select the faces when there aren't very, very small faces kind of sitting there. Let's grab that and mirror. Alright, we have the really, really starting off version of Pyra. Just got some weird stuff going on, but at least there are arms and legs attached to a torso.